In this video, I'm going to walk you through the Introduction to Monte Carlo Simulations Excel exercise. In this exercise, we're going to look at flipping a coin, or simulate flipping a coin 200 times, and looking for the distribution of the longest sequence of either heads or tails. Now, if you were to try to figure out what this distribution looks like using mathematical statistics, good luck. It's not an easy problem. You probably would need to be a graduate student in statistics to figure this out. But if we simulate this problem enough times, we can get a pretty good idea of what that distribution looks like. A Monte Carlo simulation of this type, you can sort of think of, suppose you actually sat down at your kitchen table, had a coin, and you flipped it 200 times, and you kept track of the sequence of heads and tails. And for each sequence of 200 flips, you tallied up which one was the longest sequence of heads or tails, wrote that down, and then you did it again and again and again. And that's essentially what we're doing, but we're using Excel to do that repetition for us. So the general idea is we set this up once. We simulate flipping a coin 200 times once, tally up, figure out what the longest sequence of heads or tails is, and then we have Excel repeat it for us using its data tables feature. So to start with, in cell A6, we're just going to basically put down the numbers 1 through 200 going down this column. Now you could do it by typing in 1, 2, 3, 4. That'd be one way to do it. Another way is you do 1, 2, and then if you drag this down, you see it knows that you're looking at a sequence, so you could do that. Another way is you can enter the 1 and then go up here to Edit. This is on the upper menu. Upper Excel menu, and look for Fill Series, and the default is rows, and so if we didn't change that, it would actually put in a series going across as opposed to going down. So we want to make sure to check the box that says columns. This is linear. Step value is 1. We want to go 1, 2, 3, 4. And stop value, we want this to go to 200, so we do that. We say OK, and it does that for us. Okay, so that's the first step. The next step, which in your assignment is step number 4, is we need to simulate a coin toss. And to do this, we use a function in Excel, or a formula called the RAND. And what we're going to do is in B6, we're going to type the formula equals if, and so we're going to be putting a statement in here, basically a logical test, if, and then the function is RAND. So RAND, what RAND returns is it's going to return a number between 0 and 1, like 0.44857. It might be one thing that it returns. And what we want is if that is less than 0.5, less than 0.5, comma, and if that's the case, we want it to come back with heads. Or you could put tails. I just put H for heads, comma, and if it's not less than 0.5, it's going to return tails. Or you could write out tails. And then close parentheses and enter. Okay, so here we see that returns heads. Now, if you press the F9 key, or on a Mac, it'd be hold the function key down and then select F9. To copy this down, you have a couple options. You can either go to the lower right-hand corner here. You get this solid plus sign. You can click and drag all the way down to 200. That's one option. Or when you're down here with that solid plus sign in the lower right corner, you can do a double left click. And what it does is Excel will go all the way down. Since you have the numbers 1 through 200 here, it will basically go down as far as what you have in the adjacent column. Okay, so now we have a whole bunch of sequence here. Again, if we press F9, those will change. Okay, that's to be expected. Don't freak out if you see those changing. That's what we want. So that was step 4 and 5. In column C, we want to now keep track of how long the current sequence is. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to enter a 1 in C6. So just a 1. That's the first flip, so it's going to be a 1. It can't be a 2 because there was no flip before that. And then in C7, we do equals. What we want to do is another if statement. So if, and what we're going to do is if our coin toss result from the second flip is equal to the coin toss result from the prior flip, so if B7 equals B6, we want to add 1 to the prior number. So we go C6 plus 1. So that's if that's true. So if those are the same, it's going to add 1 to the prior number. And if not, we start the counting over again at 1. Okay, and then press, do the close parentheses and then press enter. So here we see we have heads, heads. So 1, 2. If we go to the lower right corner of this cell, get that solid plus sign, double left click, and you can see here that it's now properly sort of tallying stuff. You should always check and make sure stuff is working the way that you expect it to. So here we had a head, 1, then it was a tail, so that's a 1. Then we had heads, head, head, head. So 1, 2, 3, 4, and then it was tails. So you can see here it's successfully keeping track of what the sequence is. Okay, for step number 7, we want to keep track of what is the longest sequence from our 200 flips. So I'm going to show you 2 ways to do this. The first way is using the approach that's actually listed in the assignment instructions. So in C4, so right up here, we're going to go equal max. So max is a function that's going to return the maximum value from a range. So then click on C6. And on a Mac, I can hold the Shift key and the Command key down and do a down arrow. And for some reason, if we notice here, now here's a thing where if I look at this, it's like I don't have any values there. So I'm going to hit the Escape key and sort of see what's going on with that. And it looks like it's just not... You can see we have a formula here, but it's not actually showing something. So I'm going to hit F9, and there it gave me those values. So again, F9 or on a Mac, function F9 will often fix those missing values. So again, back up here to C4. So equals max, and select that first one, and Shift Command down arrow, and then right parentheses, and enter. And so from this sequence of 200 flips, the maximum was 11. You're likely to get a different answer. You may get 11, but you might get something greater. You might get something less. If I do function F9, you can see there another 200 flips, and the longest in that one was 7. So what we currently have is we've simulated flipping a coin 200 times, keeping track of the longest sequence of heads or tails. Now, You can certainly think this certainly makes things quicker than sitting at your kitchen table flipping a coin over and over and over again. We've done the 200 right here. So you can sort of think of, well, what if we just hit F9 or function F9 and kept track of what that number was and just sort of wrote that down and did that. You could do that, but there's an easier way to do that. So we're going to come over here to column G, and we're going to simulate this. We want to simulate this 1,000 times. Okay, so we're going to enter a 1 here in G6, and we're going to put in the numbers 1 through 1,000 going down. Okay, and we use the edit function for this just as before. So fill, we want to do a series. This is in a column. Step value is 1. Stop value is 1,000. Okay, so we have that. Okay, now we need to tell Excel what we want to keep track of. So in H6, we're just going to type equals, and then we're just going to select this this maximum that we had from our first simulation. So equals C4. If you put that in a different cell, you need to reference that cell. Okay, so we have that. Okay, now this next part is a little tricky. So we're going to start off in cell G6, and we want to select this range here going all the way down. Okay, we need to tell Excel where to put what's going to turn out to be an array formula. Okay, so if we select that, and on a Mac, it's hold the Shift key and the Command key down. So what the Shift key does on a Mac is if I hold that down, it basically anchors anchors on that first cell. Okay, if I just hold the Command key down and go down arrow, it doesn't anchor, it just goes all the way down to the end. So there's nothing after the 1,000 there, so it went all the way down there. Okay, so it's real great for sort of like moving around. If you want to go all the way to the very bottom right corner of your spreadsheet, here we are at XFD 1,048,576. Okay, so then you can sort of zip around. So if we combine these two, so Shift, Command, do a right arrow, and then a down arrow, it selects that range. Okay, now this next step, we're going to go here. We're going to click on Data. This is on the lower menu, what you might call the spreadsheet menu, Data, and then What If Analysis. It's over here, and we want a data table. Okay, and a data table. Now, data tables are great. You can basically set up some calculation that has two variables that you want to sort of change and see how a particular output is impacted by that. So for example, if we wanted to look at what is your monthly mortgage payment, and we wanted to do that as a function of how much is borrowed and what the mortgage rate is, we could do that. Okay. Here, we're basically going to trick Excel into basically just hitting F9 a whole bunch of times. Okay, so row input cell, if we had something going across this way, we would need to tell Excel what the row input cell is, but we don't have that, so we just come down here to the column input cell. And Excel is basically asking, okay, you've got these numbers, 1, 2, 3, all the way down to 1,000. Where do you want me to put those? Okay, before hitting F9. Okay, and we just need to, we don't need those numbers put anywhere really. We basically need those put in a blank cell. So I'm just going to select, it doesn't matter where, you just, I usually do it above the data table, so like G5. Okay, so if I do G5 and then press OK, and there we go. And let me make sure, so let's scroll all the way down. Yeah, I see all these zeros down here. That means it's sort of stopped its calculation midway. So if I do F9 again, function F9, Let's see. So these are the types of problems. This is why you need to sort of check to see what's going on. We have the formulas in there. This is an array formula, by the way. You see these squirrely brackets on either side. That indicates it's an array formula. There we go. I might have done it. Not all the way yet. Let's see. This isn't even that large of a problem. Let me try F9 again. Okay, I got it working. It was just working on some other stuff. I've got a bunch of programs running in the background. That's probably messing me up. Okay, so now we have the results of 1,000 trials, where each trial consists of simulating flipping a coin 200 times, keeping track of the longest sequence, whether it's heads or tails. Okay, now we want to graph our results so we can sort of visually see what's going on. So if we come over here to J6, and here we're going to enter the numbers 1 through 22. Okay, so 1, 2, and here you might notice that things slow down a little bit. Every time I enter a number and press enter, Excel wants to basically recalculate everything. Okay, and you can see the data table over here changes. If you have a relatively complicated Monte Carlo simulation, this can take a lot of time. You can go in to Excel preferences, and in Excel preferences you can go and change calculation. So here it says automatic except for data tables. So we're going to do that. Okay, click that there. And so now when we enter numbers here, 4 or 5, you see there isn't that lag. And I'm just going to select these and just go down until I have 22 or so. Okay. Okay. So it's unlikely that we'll actually see one where the longest sequence is 1. That'd be exceedingly rare, because that's basically heads, tails, heads, tails, heads, tails for 200 flips. Same with 2, 3, 4. Unlikely to sort of see those numbers. Okay. So we're now on step number 13. As I note in here in the instructions, this is a tricky step. A lot of students sort of go wrong on this step. So I'm going to show you how to do this. You're going to select the cells K6 through K27. So the cells to the right of where you entered those numbers 1 through 22. Okay, so you have that selected, and now you're going to type a formula, and this is going to get entered in as an array formula. Okay, so equals frequency. Now notice here, once I do that first left parentheses, it recognizes what I've typed. If you make a spelling error, it won't do this. So if you're not getting this, make sure that you're spelling things correctly. Spelling errors is a common mistake on these assignments. So check your spelling. Okay, so frequency, and we want to keep track of, so it's asking for data array. Well, the data array is these 1,000 numbers here, okay, in column H. So just click on H6, Shift, Command, down arrow, okay, comma. Now it wants to know the bins array. Just scroll back up. You can actually probably get up there with an up arrow. And bins array, and we want to put them into those, the 1 through 22. Okay? And then close parentheses. Don't press enter. And you're going to hold the shift and control key down. Hold both those down, and then press enter or return. Okay? Boom, just like that. And what it's done is it's tallied up the number that have the longest sequence of 1, 2, 3, 4, Here we actually got one where the longest sequence was 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. You can see that. The longest one we have here is 1 at 15. So we have that. Okay. So we now have a frequency distribution table, and to create a histogram of this, you're not going to use Excel's histogram. Okay. So the prior assignment, you could have gone in there and gone insert, then recommended charts, and selected histogram. That's not what you want here. Okay. You can see here's a clustered column. That actually looks right. Here's one that's a clustered bar, just sort of the same thing, just on its side. Here's one that's a line. So all of these sort of show the same thing. You don't want this one. For some reason, a lot of students select that one. So you can do that, or you can go over and do like a 2D column. So we're going to do a 2D column, and this is what we're after. Okay, so the way we did this was we have 1 through 22, and it just sort of naturally sort of numbered these 1 through 22. If this had gone from 5 to 27 or something like that, this would still say 1 through 22. So we sort of set it up to actually sort of get the right numbers there naturally. We don't need the chart title, and you can mess around with the color of this if you want, but that's essentially what we're after, is this guy right here. If you want, you can go and move this over to let's see, click here, move chart. If I move this over to a new chart or a new sheet, we have that. You can do that. You can save this, and on here, if I right click on here, you can pick save as picture. And down here, you've got a bunch of different options: PNG, a JPEG file, PDF, GIF, bitmap, SVG. I do a lot of stuff with SVG files. Those are vector graphic files. Those, if you put those into PowerPoint or into like an Adobe, Acrobat PDF file, they come out really, really crisp. So you could do that if you wanted to. So let me just type. Let's see, distribution. Oops. I'm going to do SVG just to see how this works. So SVG, and we'll just call this coin toss distribution. Click the save, and if I open up. So if I open up an Excel file, I can come in here and not an Excel file, sorry, a Word file. Come in here, insert. I want to insert a picture from file. So grab the file and you can insert it there. So what you'll need to, whether you do an SVG file or some other file, you can also go in here and just sort of directly go and say, right click. Actually, you got to get off the main area there. Right click, copy. You can just go from there and just straight paste it into Word. That's probably the easiest thing to do. But you're going to need to upload both your Excel file as well as the Word file. Now, I'm going to show you. So if you don't end up with a distribution that looks like this, okay, so suppose we went in here, let's do this again. Let's say, suppose you went in here and you went in and you did like that graph, okay, and so you had, let's see, get this guy here. So you had this graph here, okay, it doesn't look anything like what it's supposed to be, okay, that's a Pareto chart. Don't submit something like this. Okay, one, it tells me you're not paying attention to what it should look like, and two, it's sort of you're not being inquisitive as to how do you get the right thing. So if I have something like this, though, you can go in here and you can do a right click on this, change chart type. You can sort of see here we've got a bunch of different options. And if you do a column and do a 2D, you get back to something similar to what we had. This one doesn't have gaps between the columns, but you have that. Okay. One final thing I had skipped over back over here when I did this. One thing that I had skipped over when I did this max over here, another way of doing this, so rather than actually sort of have max C6 to C205, you can actually select this range. Select this range here. Okay, so I've selected that range. And if you come up here, this here is the formula bar. To the left of the formula bar is the name box. And so if I click in the name box, I go, let me just put, say, sequence. Okay, so sequence, enter. Okay, so now that range is called sequence. Normally what this name box shows is what cell you're in. So here I'm in cell F4, I'm in cell A10. If I go and select this range again, and now it says sequence. If I'm over here on, say, the chart page, and it won't let me do it on the chart page. Let me add a sheet in here. Suppose I add sheet 2, so I'm over on sheet 2. If I go and say sequence, it takes me back to sheet 1 and where that data is. So I could just go equals max sequence. Okay, gives me the same answer. The difference between these is if you look at this max sequence, it's easier to understand what you've done. You've got the maximum of the sequence, whereas this is maximum from this range, and you have to look at the range. What is that? So you will see a lot of the assignments where we make use of the named ranges to make things a little bit easier. Okay, hope that helps.